Good evening and welcome to the Cheese Room podcast. Thanks for tuning in. We're so close to 6,000 subscribers now. I can taste it. Either that or it's the garlic from my chicken tikka pathia tonight from a very good Indian establishment. I'm washing it down with some gin and some garnish. Absolutely, of course I am. And I can't wait to get stuck into this show just like the chicken tikka pathia and naan bread I demolished. Joining me all the way from America, but over here, it's Jack. How you doing, Jack?
I'm doing great.
Well, you're not over here.
That is brilliant. That is actually brilliant. That is brilliant. That actually, I could have responded to that just the same. Sorry. Apologies, Jack. Go ahead.
You're tardy as well, so I'm going to come to you.
For my manners. For my manners.
Jack hates. Here we go.
I'm doing well. I came from a great dinner in Soho tonight with my daughter. It's some nice pasta, so I'm feeling great.
Good. How's the UK treating you?
Very well. I mean, other than the hour wait for passport control this morning, everything's been smooth sailing.
Oh, that's good. That's good. Yeah. And the exchange rate's been kind to you as well.
Obviously. You couldn't ask for a better time to come. You couldn't ask for a better time.
You must feel like a millionaire. Well,
pretty much, yeah. At least for a day.
Well, you feel like one. Stevie probably is one. Stevie, how are you, sir? And how are you feeling about the new stadium partnership announced today? Some very exciting news coming out of Spurs. What can you say about this? Did you have it in the know about this?
I didn't know. We all thought Google was going to be announced, didn't we? We were all waiting for Google. And then Malcolm Brown comes along as renewal. But I'm a big fan, so I'm happy. Have to take a little Taylors along, won't we, and kind of decant it to get our money's worth from Spurs.
I heard they're available in duty free. So
Molten Brown. I'm a big Molten Brown fan, actually. All of my bathrooms have Molten Brown.
If it's available in duty free, I would love to sneak some on on my way home from a flight or something like that. Just know that Levy has had that covered. Now I can buy something Spurs related from the duty free section. I think it's genius.
and yeah, well, do you have Molten Brown in the States? Is it a recognized brand over there? No,
so that's what I'm saying. Now I can finally be able to see what it's all about.
Oh, it's very nice. My hands smell beautiful 24/7. Steve, your favorite flavor of Molten Brown, Steve?
I couldn't tell you. I'm not.
I was so hopeful of a proper response then.
Whichever one's free of charge, mate. But you can see Levy's playing 4D chess here, isn't he? Jack's going to go off to Walmart.
He's already got me hooked.
Yeah.
Goddamn Levy. Well, it's his fault. Apparently, we lost to Man United 2-0, so we'll absolutely come on to that. But yeah, welcome to all of you. It's always a pleasure to have two Jacks with us and a Steve Diver, of course. The original Conte Cam provider. Official Conte Cam provider to the Cheese Room podcast. And we have got a great show to get through tonight. But before we do that, housekeeping, please do hit the like button. Please do subscribe. We're so close to 6,000. As I said, I can taste it. Do smash that super chat if you're feeling particularly generous. We appreciate your support through the show. Let's get into it. And unfortunately, we have to cover off the Man United game. But we'll do it whistle stop, and then I think we'll look ahead to the weekend at Newcastle. Now, the good news is there's no run sheet for tonight's show, so I don't have to live through every detail of the match. We'll summarise it pretty quickly.
Can we just say we're terrible and move on?
We were, but Steve, you invested in a hotel for the night and going all the way to Manchester.
Yeah. 8 hours of driving, 300 quid in fuel and hotel.
And you didn't even stop by.
Got a cookie in a hotel. That's the only good thing of the night.
Oh, you did? They still do the cookie?
Oh, no, yeah, they're nice.
They are good, yeah. There was you slating it. I said you didn't get the free cookie. The starting lineup, people got their way. Flat cap, Jack, 3-5-2. And I guess you were as happy as me when you saw the starting lineup.
Yeah, it's a confusing one because we got what we wanted with the 3-5-2. It also was sort of like Conte was sort of forced his hand, if anything, with the 3-5-2 because of the injuries of Kulusevski and Richie on top of that as well. As much as caller, I would love to include Hill Messi in this conversation. I'm not going to. The 3-5-2 is what most Spurs fans wanted. Where it kind of disappointed was if we're losing an attacker, if we're losing an extra striker in the front three, then that means with these extra midfielders, what we're trying to do is win that midfield battle. We're trying to dominate the opposition midfield, because with the 3-4-3, we kind of saw we didn't need to win the midfield battle in order to win the game. It was kind of a funny situation where we could kind of get passed around, but we could still, get through teams quite easily. Whereas with the 3-5-2, you're sort of then asking your team, you have to win the midfield battle. By winning the midfield battle, you win the game. It felt like we just didn't do that. We didn't win the midfield battle, and therefore we kind of didn't win the game. I know that might be a bit simple to look at it that sort of way, but with that extra midfielder, you would think that is sort of the goal in order to do that.
Yeah, I mean, when you look at I'll come to you, other Jack. This is going to be so confusing. One of you needs to come up with a name I can call you that's not Jack. With that other midfield, Jack at H, with Man United's midfield, you got Fernandes and Sancho, Anthony. Obviously, they've got Fred and Casemiro sitting deep, but you would think, therefore, we would outgun them and outman them in midfield, and certainly that's what I hoped for in the preview. But it just didn't happen. What do you put that down to?
Well, if you can't complete a pass, then you're not going to dominate the midfield. And all night long, they couldn't complete a pass. And so I don't attribute it to the formation. I attribute it to player execution. They were not on it. And if you're going to play that way and and eventually you keep losing possession, you cede more and more territory, you sit deeper and deeper and deeper. And eventually, you're just defending on your edge of your box. And that's how they had 28 shots or whatever it was. And so for me, it was just players not showing up. It wasn't tactics. It was just other than Hugo, it was just people not stepping up and playing at their ability, and that's all it comes down to for me. I was so disappointed because how many years have we looked at Spurs in a big game, and they just don't seem to show up. And it manager after manager, we've had rotation through different players, and yet it seems to be the same issue. And Conte, of course, stressed that in the press conference. These big games consistently not showing up with top performances.
Now it's interesting you say the team didn't show up. They almost didn't show up. So they were due to fly up Tuesday night, and they were due to fly up on Tuesday night, and they had a technical fault with the aircraft. So they had to go back to the training ground and then take the bus up on Wednesday. I don't know how much that played into it, but it's going to be a bit disruptive. But you're right. And you summed it up perfectly for me when you said about passing. I don't think I've ever seen our team pass so badly.
I haven't seen Højbjerg play that poor in a while.
Yeah. But it's everybody. Normally we're reasonable playing it out from the back, but almost every time we just turned over possession to them. It was It was a bad watch. It was a humiliating watch to watch it up there. And the only thing I can credit the club with, quite frankly, was the away support was awesome as always. Better than the home.
And I want to commend you for that, because I could hear that. I was watching a good part of the game on my phone, and even I could hear the away support all the way through to the end of the match. And
let's be clear, Jack. It wasn't Steve. He was in the.
I was going to say I can't take much credit.
Politely applauding and eating a prawn sandwich.
Not sure how much credit I can take for that, but I'll take it.
They felt like the only ones that showed up to that game, the fans, if anything. Yeah. I think someone had even said they didn't even get off the bus. They didn't even get on the bus, as some fans had said. On
our
the
away support always turns up. Molten brand. Well, I've got.
When I go through the duty-free section, I need to know, basically.
I can tell you that if you go to the Tottenham Hotspur Stadium and you sit in Premium, the Tunnel Club, or I assume the H Club, Steve, maybe you could.
Everywhere.
It's Coastal, the fragrance. It's my favourite fragrance, actually. Coastal is lush. It's really nice. They sell it in a refillable bottle, and
is this a moisturizer or is this a conditioner?
Well, both. Naturally, you can buy it in moisturizer, shower gel, hand wash. By appointment to His Majesty the King. previously the Queen. It's beautiful stuff. And I've got Coastal actually in my ensuite in the bedroom.
Is it strong enough to cover up the stench of that performance in Manchester?
I would say so, but if not, my other recommendation would be Puritas, which is very nice as well.
You need to be pretty strong in order to cover that stench, so a bit too strong.
Coastal is I would say it's quite a masculine fragrance. Actually, it's quite nice.
Okay. Okay. I'll take a look out for Coastal next time.
I've got a lime one in Daisy's bathroom. What have I got? I've got 5 bathrooms, and I've got 5 different flavors in all the different bathrooms. So yeah, it's nice. It's nice.
Well, on my way to West Ham through the duty free section, or actually on my way out of West Ham through the duty free section, Molten Brown, Coastal.
Jack, get on it. Coastal.
On the mind.
Let me know.
I wouldn't take Molten Brown to West Ham. You'll get stabbed.
I think I'll need some Molten Brown scent after playing West Ham. I'll be honest, Stevie, but I'll need whatever I can get.
Yeah.
Hopefully they have it in stock. Hopefully they have Coastal in stock.
Yeah.
So I do think
Conte said that's why his Spurs team seem fearful against big sides, Big Six. In this type of game, you need to arrive and not make mistakes. You need to arrive with the war inside you, ready to fight a war, and you need to know at the end of the game you die or your opponent dies. He's a bit dramatic, isn't he? Isn't he, Jack H? He's more than slightly passionate. Is Mr. Conte? In fact, I think he called Benton Kerr a wanker a few times, or words to that effect.
Well, that's I guess maybe tribute to the Italian passion, but he's not wrong. You know, I mean, dramatic as he is, he's not wrong in terms of, you know, when you show up to a game, you go to Old Trafford and you're looking down the table at that club, you need to make a statement. And they didn't, you know, and it's not the end of the world. I mean, I went into my non-soccer bubble as I usually do when they lose. I don't go on the Patreon chat. I don't go to Athletic. I don't go to the socials. I just literally leave football for at least 48 hours. And because I can't handle it. But he's not wrong. I mean, I think, you know, you could complain a lot about some of the things he says in press conferences. But I agree with him in those sentiments.
Yeah. Steve, how animated was he in the actual stadium? As per, you know, he looked like he was getting a bit aggy with some of the players.
There were some grumpy moments, and we were sat away from him, and we could hear him a few times. He was pretty loud. He wasn't happy. But it's just, I also think he was frustrated. Like normally, and this is anything that slightly worries me about him. Normally, when you see him on the touchline, you see him on Conte cam, you know, he's aggy, he's like aggressive, he gets grumpy. Like at times, he was just slapping his hands down by his sides, and he looked a bit defeated at times. Like, what do I do with these players? They don't, like, nobody turned up. They just didn't want to play, and he just looked defeated at times. And that vibe was, you know, on and off the pitch.
There you go. There's another classic Conte quote, I have to be honest. And he talks about the high level game. He talks about that a lot. Now, it's worth pointing out at this point that in the Premier League this season so far, we've played more. We've played 3 Big Six teams away from home. Nobody else has done that many Big Six teams away at home. And no Big Six team has won away at another Big Six team. Yeah. Am I making excuses, Flat Cap, or is there something in this? Because I always think if the problem with Spurs historically has been we don't knock off the weaker teams.
Yeah.
You could afford to lose these games and still be easily in contention for certainly Champions League, if not the title.
I think yes and no to your question there, mostly because I think it is interesting that there hasn't ever been another top 6 sort of away victory in any sense yet. That is kind of fascinating. It sort of gives us a bit of I don't know if it gives us credit back. It just sort of maybe explains something with the fact that I think more than ever, the cliche of there is no easy game in the Premier League, I think this is probably the most true it's ever been and feels like some time. It feels like even Bournemouth right now are probably a tough team to come up against with the way they're sort of playing. Every team maybe dips in and out of form right now, but there hasn't really been like a true horrible team, I would say, maybe other than like Forest by the looks of things. But even then, like they're still picking up a result every now and again. It just sort of feels like every team is capable of sort of like either punching above their weight or punching below their weight. Spurs are exceptional at punching below their weight. I think we have
been historically, but this season we haven't done that. Right?
No, and that's where it comes from. And like as somebody like an Antonio Conte who's played for various or managed various clubs where he's obviously great at punching below his weight because he's won league title after league title. I mean, you need to punch below your weight to win a league title, but you also need to pick up results in these away games like you're speaking in order to actually get real climbing in the table. And I think where a lot of people might be frustrated this season is you look at where Chelsea started, you look at where Liverpool started, you look how Man United started. If maybe they all played just as well as we maybe initially thought they would in the beginning of the season, I think Spurs fans would probably think, wow, like, look at us, we're in third. Like, this is exactly where we wanted to be. But because they have underwhelmed the likes of Chelsea, Man United, and Liverpool, Spurs fans kind of feel like maybe we should be doing a bit better, actually. Maybe we should be even better, despite where we are in the table. And so where I sort of see it, Caller, is just, I don't know, we find ourselves in a very confusing state. And I've even said that after the Man United result, if we win that game 3-0, I'll leave even more confused than I've ever been after that game, especially if we beat Newcastle.
Where are we at, Jack? Where are we at? Because going into this game, we had a good chat on the preview, and I sort of said, I don't think we'll get a result there, despite the fact I want to be optimistic. I don't think we'll get a result there because actually, United are coming into a bit of form. It's Old Trafford, difficult place to go, and it came true, but. Are we as bad or as good as we think we are, or are we somewhere in between?
I think picking up on the other Jack's comments, I'm fine with going to United and losing. But the reality is that if it's not for Hugo, that's a 5-6-0 game. And it's the performance. It's the performance. And if we had lost 2-0, if I hadn't watched the match and I looked at it, this is 2-0, and I kind of just look at the stats, like, okay, well, we defended deep and, but it wasn't that lopsided. It was 0-0 at halftime, and I would have been like, that's a reasonable outcome. But when you watch the performance, it just is a head scratcher. At this point, Conte's been in charge long enough that to have that sort, and Steve, to your point, I didn't actually know about the travel difficulties, and player and professional athletes are definitely creatures of habit and routine. And that certainly is something that I had not considered before this show. And what I'm looking for, because someday I'm going to the match. It's actually my first live match at the Tottenham Stadium. I was there for the CL final. I came up for that, and I've seen Tottenham play other places, but I've actually never seen them in the stadium. So I'm looking for the response to see. This team come out, and granted, this is a home match. This is a team that presents problems, but you hope that they come on the front foot. But it was really for me, it was just the performance. It was 10 outfield players who just didn't show up.
I'll have a slight challenge on that.
Okay, all right.
I'd say 9. So I think the one player who played reasonably well for us, not incredible, was Kane. Some of his hold-up play and some of his passing was just on another level to any other Tottenham player on the pitch.
Then they didn't get much service to begin with.
Yeah, that's fair.
But like some of the crossfield balls, coming into him and he'd do his typical spin and ping it across the pitch was sublime. And there's one moment, must have been in the late first half.
It was first half to Doherty.
Yeah, and
that's probably the greatest pass I've ever seen in my life.
Yeah, Like even the United crowd were like, you could hear them go, ooh. And
The ball just kept carrying and carrying and carrying.
You could hear the United crowd? Really?
I know. But that's about
fair.
the only. There was a little bubble of them over there.
Right.
This was a funny thing. When they scored and went 1-up, the first chant you could hear was, "We want Glazers out." And I was like, "This is mad! You're winning at home. You just scored, and the first thing you've done is chant that."
Yeah.
And then that's the only time for the entire match I saw and heard the entire stadium stand up. And you got to think, if you're Glazers, you just spent all that money. I know they've mismanaged the club, but you spent all that money.
Spent money. But they've always spent money, Steve. They've always
Silver
spent money.
spoonish over there. Yeah.
It's just
True.
what they spent it on, isn't it? You know, I mean,
Well, yeah.
what Man United have done is most Tottenham fans' wet dream, like splashing money here, there, and everywhere. That's what all these
Throwing any price at any player. Yeah, just like I don't care if he's worth 10 million, we'll throw 70 million.
Yeah, when I read the people who are really like leaving out and eating out on Twitter, it's like they're not spending enough money, and literally what the Glazers have, they'd love the Glazers owners because they splash money everywhere. They just
will throw a price on anything, as long as they want it. As long as they want it.
Yeah, exactly. Talking of 10, Stevie, Ten Hag, against this Tottenham, you need good pressing. You need to counter. I mean, look, he's talking about Marcus Rashford, though. I thought Marcus Rashford was a bit shit, if I'm being really honest.
He was, but... Oh, Calder's gone, is he?
Oh, yeah.
He was, but something I noticed, and you can, when you're watching it live, and you can see Conte and the players off ball, constantly Conte was saying to Dyer,
drop.
Rashford's there, get back 20 yards. Like all the time. I don't think that really helped us because I know Rashford's
That's
quick.
the problem, isn't it? Because we were just being pushed deeper and deeper and deeper.
100%. And it was time and time again. And Dyer kept moving up to keep that line, defensive line. Every single time Conte, you could hear him shouting out, Eric, go back, and pushing him back. And I just don't think that helped us.
And I tell you what, I thought Bentancur was bloody awful. I mean, you could go through the players. If we want to talk negatively, which we won't for long, I promise we'll move on to Newcastle games soon. 75 people watching, by the way, and please all smash that like button. Eric Dyer was awful. Genuinely, that was like peak Eric Dyer in terms of the negative sense. And he's been pretty decent, actually, over the last 18 months, but he was terrible, I thought. Bentancur just gave the ball away so much. No wonder Conte was so furious with him. But here's my question, and I'm going to come to you first, Steve, and I'd like all you to have a view on this. Why on earth does Conte leave it till the 80th minute or whatever it was to make changes? Like when he can see it's going so catastrophically badly, and he's 2-0 down. He's not gone 1-0 down. He's gone 2-0 down. He hasn't done anything to change the game whatsoever. He's got a fairly, it's not a stacked bench by any stretch of the imagination. And clearly we're missing Kulusevski. Clearly we're missing Richarlison as some options. But he has got players on the bench there. Sessegnon, Lucas, Hill, that could potentially be deployed to try and change the game. He could have changed formation. He could have gone 4-4-2. He could have gone, with his favoured formation with 3 up top. Steve, why do you think he leaves it so late? What's it all about?
I think only he knows. And it's the chap to my left watching the game is that he was a Borough fan. So he goes to the games because his wife's a Tottenham fan, and he was given quite a good neutral's view on it, actually. And he was picking it up as well. He was saying, like, why is Conte not changing this? The scoreline is only going to get worse. Normally, if you go a goal or 2 down and you're still in the game, and they've hit you on a break or something, and like they've got a couple of lucky goals, then maybe you keep it the same. But we showed no chance of scoring, none, and we only showed a chance of conceding more. And like one wonders whether he's, and I don't think he is, whether he's making a point of the squad isn't deep enough, but I think he's got such a passion to win. I don't think he'd be that petty. And also, he's not going to change much in the game in October, right? I just don't know. Like, is he that stubborn? And he does some odd things in all games. Like Kane against Frankfurt, he was shattered. He was absolutely shattered, and he keeps him on. You know, we're 3-1 up and cruising against them. They're down a player. Bring Kane off. Just bring him off. But yeah, I don't know whether it's stubbornness or what. But when he does, I don't know if you guys have noticed, when he does make a sub, and I'm sure there's more of a plan in this, it often seems to be very impulsive, doesn't it? So you see him on the touchline, and all of a sudden he'll start barking orders at one of his assistants, and they grab a player who's warming up, and they're on. So it's like, I don't quite know how he manages a game out, but it'd be an interesting question for him.
I mean, this was obviously the issue. The press that Man United put up, they put it up for 90 minutes, which is a hell of an effort. Especially when you consider our players are supposed to be super fit from that Conte pre-season.
Yeah, but is it a press when we can't even pass the ball? Like even when we had time on the ball, we couldn't.
I don't know. We didn't have that much time on the ball, full stop in the game. And I think if you press a team, I mean, if you play football quite a lot, like I do, if you're getting pressed left, right, and centre, you know that it's in your head. Almost when you've got time, you're panicking because you're thinking that press is coming.
And you don't think you can turn. You don't think you can.
Quickly, yeah. And if you stop talking to each other, if you're not calling for each other because your heads are going down, because you're losing 2-0 at Old Trafford, then it's a difficult thing to get out of. But just on this, Basuma, I mean, he didn't have none of the midfielders had the best game, to be really honest. But I'm not sure that Basuma is there to break the press. I think he's there to break up the play. But Flat Cap Jack, what's your take on this?
Yeah, potentially. Like Basuma's role is more, I think, to be, at least when he's sitting in the middle like that, is to cover that range in front of the back line and to cover that range in front of the box that maybe a Basuma or a Bentancur wouldn't be able to do as well. He can clean up maybe a bit better than them when it comes to how much range he actually has to cover on the pitch. He is a bit more like an N'Golo Conte. At the same time, though, I thought Basuma was disappointing because as good as it is to be able to just win the ball and be able to clean up for us, didn't really feel like he was doing that as much as we would like. And also, I didn't see a lot of energy from him in the most part. Kind of did feel like he was sort of just kind of shifting from side to side, maybe waiting for the ball to kind of get in front of him in order to win it. And I'll be honest, though, I agree with you, Collar. It feels really hard to even pick out any of the midfielders because I am like, plenty a bit of a Højbjerg stan. I absolutely love the guy, but even I can't defend Højbjerg after his performance from the Man United. So it's hard for me to even pick out an individual performance from each of the midfielders because they were all kind of shocking in their own way and they all kind of disappointed in their own way. So I sort of am coming from the mindset that they didn't really do a whole lot to maybe stick their neck out ahead of another player or really make themselves look better than the other. So I kind of find it always a bit harsh or even kind of silly to say, oh, at least Bentancur did this, at least Højbjerg did this, at least Basuma did this. I kind of thought they were all shocking, like exceptionally in their own way. Maybe Basuma. Yeah.
But Bentancur's the one you would look to break the press, surely, because he's the one
I would agree
who carries the ball a bit more.
I would agree. I think Basuma is probably not as responsible, to get to your original question, probably not as responsible to break the press. If anything, he's more responsible for winning the ball back for us quickly and seeing out those passes that went in behind for Rashford and things like that. But it probably is more Højbjerg and Bentancur's responsibility to break us through and be able to turn on the ball and find players of like Kane and Son, etc. You're absolutely right. I think it's probably less Basuma's responsibility, if anything. I would agree.
Jack H, midfield dysfunction, can't contain a press, can't break a press. What do we need to do differently? I mean, the reality is, I put the kiss of death on Højbjerg, by the way, by putting him in my Premier League dream team. So the second that he was going in, there was going to be problems. But Jack H, I'm looking at the midfield, and it's been the issue, I think, that we've all sort of talked about from the transfer window and all the way through. There's no creativity in that midfield, and when you're playing elite opposition, you need someone who can ping it and create something out of nothing. Someone who appears to have time on the ball under a press, someone who can beat a man, a Moussa Dembele or an Eriksen. you need one of those type of players, surely, not just three people that are going to sit there and battle for, noble in defeat, but, ultimately limited against a team that's going to high press you.
Yeah, I wonder, not trying to get into psychology too much, but I mean, we know Conte is a very regimented manager. He plays a very disciplined system. We can go through all the midfielders in his career that struggled to get game time early on, whether it's all the way back to Fabregas. We know Eriksen had trouble establishing himself. He doesn't allow midfielder, and he played in that spot, right? He doesn't allow. He's not looking for flair. He's not looking for the unpredictable. He's a regimented systems manager, and so to your point, I think Bissouma can break the press on the dribble. We saw him do it against us. How many games, right?
True.
Bentancur can do it. Pierre less so, but they all have the ability. If they felt the license to do it, to say, you know what, give me the ball. I'm going for the midway line, and just everyone get on my back and let's go. And I'm going to break this press all on our own. But I just don't feel. I wonder if they actually have that freedom, because the tactical discipline that's required to play in this system, it stifles people, and they don't want to lose their spot. Plus, how many minutes of these midfielders, in particular Højbjerg and Bentancur, played over and over and over again? I mean, Skip has not been available to us, and I think he trusts Skip, but he hasn't been there to absorb minutes. So
I'd like to see Skip.
I'd love to see him this weekend. I mean, I think run the kid out, because I know that he has the ability, and so that's one of my questions. Is it just they have the ability, they're just not allowed or willing to play, in that expressive way to break presses on their own? That's different from what they've been drilled in on the practice.
And the trouble is that, I mean, again, if you play lots of football, you need movement, right? There was no one offering for the ball. When we were in possession, there was no one offering for the ball. And in reality, when a team's pressing you like that, a couple of quick passes, time right, or beat a man, and you're through the press, and it's game on. You think, Christ, we're away here.
It becomes easy.
One of the players that can do that is Kulusevski, for me. He's a sore miss, isn't he, Stevie? Sorry, I know you're just slurping your Chateauneuf de Pape or whatever it is. Certainly not Chateauneuf de Pape, it's white, but yeah.
Garnishless as well.
It'll be some kind of fine wine, knowing you, Steve.
It's more Chateauneuf de crap at the moment, to be honest.
Oh, really?
Yeah, it's not very nice.
That's a garnishless as well. I mean, it's fewer garnishes. I mean, you're the only garnished person, it seems like, a caller at the moment. Sorry.
I'm garnished. I've got grapefruit on the go.
How would you varnish? How would you garnish a wine?
I don't think you would. That's what I'm saying. The beer and the wine are garnishless. They come naturally garnishless. Yeah.
He would garnish anything, Jack.
Yeah, I would. I would try to.
Spritz,
if a spritz counts as a garnish, I would try, but I don't think it does. Sorry, Stevie, though, your answer to football-related things, and Kulusevski, I think we were talking about.
Oh, that was a question. Thank you. I can actually remember it.
No, because I knew I distracted us, and I felt guilty for it. Sorry.
Oh, don't be guilty. Distracts us from the current matters we've got, which is a good thing. I mean, we miss him whether he's on the bench or not. He scores goals, he sets up goals. He causes. Oh God, it sounds like a cliche, doesn't it? But he causes other teams problems and gives them something else to think about. And whether he's on the bench or whether he's on, the starting lineup, factually and statistically, he does the business.
Does he make the 3-4-3 click for you? Has he kind of been the sort of secret maybe to making that work this season, do you think, Stevie?
I think so. Although his form this season hasn't been as good, has it? I think I'm right in saying he was scoring and assisting more in the last half of last season than
at an almost inhuman rate.
Yeah, I mean that's the thing. It sounds like a criticism. It's not. He came and he did far better than any of us expected. I think we're massively missing him. I think obviously Moura was on the bench against Newcastle, but over the other game, I think we've missed more as well. Like, I don't think he offers a lot, but he offers something. And when you're looking at our bench, yeah, particularly when Kulu was out, well, we basically had no attacking players on. So, like, you can't, Conte, we said about Conte not making subs. If he needs to make an attacking sub and he looks at the bench, who has he got? So, when Richarlison comes back, when Kulusevski comes back with more of it, then suddenly we've got more attacking players on there, more options. But
that's a problem, though, isn't it? I mean, we've got a big squad. I mean, to be missing one. I mean, we've only really got 2 players injured, right? Richarlison and Kulusevski. Am I right? Right now? I mean, that's a pretty damning indictment if all your creativity's gone when one player is out the team, And so we were missing Emerson Royale, but let's face facts. He's not the problem. He's not the fix to this problem, right? We've got to buy someone who can create. Surely in January, we're crying out for it. I spoke a lot about it in the transfer window.
Yeah,
we are crying out for a different option. Either a ball carrier who can create, like an Dembele, dare I say it, or someone who can pick a lot.
Yeah.
It's frustrating that we've left ourselves this open in the window. But if we talk about the fullbacks, as I know a lot of people will have a lot of comments on it, you would be relying on the width and the penetration to come from those positions. But I thought we started off okay. Doherty got into a couple of beautiful positions, which is certainly more than Royal does for us. So I'm more than happy to continue with Doherty, even though I know it will be straight back to Royal. And on the left, Perisic kept sort of running into blind alleys, really, didn't he? He put a couple of aimless balls across, but the wing backs are just not doing the business, are they, Jack H? It's really frustrating.
No, I think the lack of production from the wing back is what's leading Tottenham fans to. That's leading the chorus of the Conte out because they don't like the style of football. And the style of football does look turgid. It does look slow. It does look undynamic when you don't have basically attacking wingers coming out of the back. And that is what we're missing. There's no
time for Jed Spence.
I mean, I'm encouraged that, we talked about the lack of changes. I am encouraged that he at least let the kid play 3 minutes the last 2 games. I mean, that's closer than he's been. And, we'll get to Newcastle, but I mean, I think that, if Dan Burns on the left of the back 4, I mean, I don't know. I think that with the system, I mean, again, I feel like if you had a Jed Spence type of player, again, I can't say he's a Premier League wing back who can be dangerous because we just haven't seen him do it, but let's assume for the moment he is. And you have what I've seen from Udogie in Italy, and you have both them on the pitch, bombing forward, taking people on, getting into the box, causing chaos across the back line. Right? Yeah. Right. I mean, now you're creating chaos in the box, and you have people like Son and Kane finding those little pockets of space, kicking a ball 1 touch in the back of the net, and the system looks completely different.
Well, let's talk about what we can change and what we can do. I will touch on this. There was some light relief at the end of the match, and Ronaldo provided that with his heat map. There he is.
Creeped a little bit above the line there by the looks of things. He decided to get a touch on.
That's fantastic.
Straight down the tunnel to his car. I don't even want to look at this slide. Yeah, we're not going to look at that slide. Ronaldo. I tell you what, he was having a good old chat and hug with Paratici before the game. Then he was having lots of, because obviously Paratici.
Oh, that's right.
So they know each other quite well. So I'll ask the killer question. Ronaldo wants out of United. January. It's a loan for 6 months. We're not paying all his wages. Would you take him, Steve Diver?
Yeah, of course you would. Who on earth wouldn't? Like, he's an absolute goat. Like, why would you not take him?
Well, let me ask
Jacks,
because they're rolling their eyes like Jack H are going to come to you first. You look like,
I wish I'd known this was coming. Intellectually,
What does
do you
your heart
want that
and your mind say? Yeah.
do you
what does
want
your
that
heart-
option? Do you want that ability? But I mean, again, I've never been a fan. I mean, I admire him. I think that tons of respect. It's unbelievable what he's done. I mean, he's clearly one of the greatest that's ever. I just, oh God, that's just so tough, Colin. You're killing me with this. I mean, if he would play ball, if he would like be a positive influence in the dressing room, if he's not going to storm off down the tunnel because he's not getting playing time, then yes, of course.
Well, no, you'd have to give him playing time, wouldn't you? That's the answer.
Yeah, and where are you going to play him, and who are you pulling off for that?
Well, right now, Son.
Anybody?
You know,
fair enough.
Pretty terrible.
Tell you what,
Fair enough.
we need a right wing back. I reckon he'd be bloody good as a right wing back. You may not like it.
More
but-
shots than crosses, but yeah.
Flat
That'd be fine.
would you take him?
I think my heart, when it comes to Kron, I think my heart.
This is the most hypothetical of hypotheticals, by the way.
Certainly
It
is.
is.
Not gonna
It
happen.
certainly is. I think my heart sort of says yes, just because who wouldn't want to have that moment where Kron gets to play for your team? Or
And you
Ronaldo
get to
gets
get his name on
just
your
be
shirt.
brilliant. Yeah,
don't you?
exactly. I
You
think
get-
the
you
name
can go next
is
to the
it's
Bale
really-
loan shirt, you know.
But the heart says yes. But the mind says absolutely not. Absolute neeked. And it's for a variety of reasons. One being just like I think the other Jack mentioned, when it comes to the dressing room vibe, I think he'll certainly ruin it. And if anything, he'll find a way to make it about himself, as we always know. There's just so much that could go wrong. I actually think so little that could go right. Another problem too is that with Spurs, if anything, our strength has always been in our strength is in our attackers. Our world-class players are in the attack.
Before you carry on, I know where you're going with this. You're going to say no, but just imagine you get a free kick. All of a sudden, it's not Kane stepping up, is it? It's Ronnie.
Would I rather it go into the stands or into the wall? With Kane, it goes into the wall. With Ronaldo, it goes into the stands.
No.
I think with Ronaldo, I think I would rather it go into the stands, because then it's more souvenirs. Levy gets a bit more disappointed. More match balls are lost, that sort of thing. So I think I might go for Ronaldo. I think Ronaldo is a very overrated free kick taker.
Oh, he builds the suspense beautifully with his run up and everything.
I wish Kane actually took that stance. If he is going to ultimately just hit the wall, I wish he just took that stance. It'd make it a lot more entertaining, actually, to be honest, if he did the big before, as well, right? It would be brilliant. But the heart says yes. The mind says absolute neeked.
Okay. Well, I can dream. There we go. We're still third in the Premier League. Lots to be positive about. Other teams with a game in hand, but the third position is ours right now. Playing sixth at the weekend, Newcastle United. Should have got a Geordie on, really, shouldn't we? There it is. Sunday, 23rd, 4:30 p.m.
Oh, you already put Emerson on it as well.
Alas, yeah, battle of the right backs. God, you wish we had Trippier back. Christ,
he's back.
Why have we gone for that on the slide? Is that just to wind someone up? It's obviously going to be a difficult game, isn't it? How do you think we will approach this one, Jack H? What changes does he need to make? What do we think? I'll give you the Newcastle 4-3-3. Yeah. So 4-3-3, generally speaking.
Joelinton's injured, isn't he?
Yeah, I mean that was their obviously.
I didn't know.
That was their previous.
So does Willock come in for him?
Who?
Willock come in for him?
Joe Willock, yeah, possibly.
Yeah. Well, I mean, Newcastle, as we know, is league. They tops the league in goals allowed. They're even in expected goals. They are one of the best teams in the league. But it's interesting though. Because I had some time, and I was in the airport, so I had some time to kill. They're actually pretty poor when it comes to shots conceded and shots on target. They're 8th highest in shots on target, yet they've only given up 9 goals, which leads you all to not Nick Pope. And he's 2nd in the league in clean sheets. So Nick is having a huge impact on that team. They press as a unit. They play the high line with Nick as kind of a sweeper keeper. And so the question I have in my mind is, do you want to set up 3-5-2? Do you want to go 3-4-3? And because that back line is not particularly fast. And so I wonder if Lucas comes in because both him and Son on the wings to provide some speed, some counter. I'm actually kind of think he's probably going to go 3-4-3 just because of how poor the 3-5-2 was against United. But I expect this to be really low scoring. Both teams actually are pretty good defensively, and I'm looking for a 1-0, 1-1 type of event this weekend. I don't think which basically means it's going to be 3-3 or 4-3 or something like that. But I mean, that's what I'm kind of expecting because they are very solid. I mean, they spent $200-odd million since the Saudis came in, and at least half of that's on defense. So they've really shored up the back on the side. So I mean, they're a tough team to break down.
Stevie, Nick Pope, a friend of yours, or certainly your family's, are you looking forward to him making a few mistakes at the weekend? And will you meet him for a drink of your fine wine?
So definitely won't be meeting him, but we're going to meet up with his mum and dad. So it's always a bit awkward for us when Pope plays because, we want to win, but you don't want his mum and dad upset.
I mean, I'll be honest. I'll take his mum and dad upset, Steve.
Absolutely.
But no, the wider family are Spurs fans as well, so they're even more conflicted this weekend. But no, I think like Pope, and I think John said it in the chat, not the best of ball at his feet, but he's a class keeper, and I would have loved for us to have signed him. But kind of disappointed we didn't. But then he was never going to come to us anyway. That was totally off the cards. But I think I can't remember what you said now. You distracted me, Nick Pope.
Yeah.
How much will you be celebrating in their face when Harry Kane scores the penalty in front of them? Basically,
that's what happened last year, wasn't it?
Yeah.
Last year we didn't see them because they're in the East stands, so we could celebrate a bit harder. But they're in the West near us this year. But a little, not a lot, a polite amount, I will say.
Polite amount. That's more than the usual amount in the Tunnel Club.
That's limbs. That's limbs.
Oh no, you're not in the Tunnel Club. Oh no, your seat's been taken. Yeah.
So I will tell you one thing.
Just love it somewhere.
At the United game, I was talking to somebody who works at the club, and he was saying, he asked where I sat in the stadium, so I told him Tunnel Club, and he's like, "Oh, we love you guys." I'm like, really? Like, don't normally like corporate people. This isn't the vibe I normally get. And he said, "No, because you guys say all the stuff we want to say about the fourth official." So, the Frankfurt game, the fourth official had a bee in his bonnet and many other things which I probably shouldn't say about us all game. We were saying the stuff the bench really wanted to say, but obviously they can't because they get in trouble. So apparently we're in their good books at the moment. But no,
good.
I mean...
Kane Conte's good book, Steve.
Yeah, true. Well, I'm a long way from that. Jack H., where are you sitting?
Oh, I'm in. We're in the North Stand.
Oh, which part?
So,
Got callers.
You got me here because, and I can't pull. I'm using the phone for this UKIP, so I can't pull the ticket up without messing something up.
Upper tier, middle tier, lower tier.
Middle tier.
Yes, that's where I sit normally. So there you go.
Oh, great.
Block 41. Unfortunately, I'm not there, Jack. Just to manage it.
Oh no! So I'm hoping to actually meet some of the patrons this weekend. I don't know who's going.
Get on that.
Have you been to the ground this season yet, Caller? Have you seen us play?
You know I have. We've sat and had drinks. Oh no, that was in the
Not this year. Not this year. Not this year.
That's not true. What are you talking about?
I haven't seen.
So which one of you is too drunk to remember? That's what I want to know.
Steve, definitely Steve. Definitely
That's
Steve.
why I come on these shows. I don't normally remember the games. But,
I've got selfies of you with me in the tunnel club this season.
from this year?
Yes, this year. Yeah.
Sure. That's embarrassing, isn't it?
Memorable. Memorable.
We saw Guns N' Roses in the tunnel club this year.
I was going to say, I remember I was on the
I tried
screen.
getting it
I was
actually
on the
changing
screen
room.
beforehand for that one. I remember even all the build-up and all the jokes beforehand about the Guns
I'm
N'
actually
Roses
amazed they
concert.
still let me in there actually to see you because I did go completely.
Feels like I remember even
Wow.
Steve's experience more than Steve does. Feels like I was there.
Speaking of concerts, which probably and events, which
I
probably
figured it out. By the way, Steve. I know you've been teasing. You reckon there's going to be a couple more events. I figured out who it is.
Have you?
Yep. I'm just going to leave it out here. Taylor Swift and the Arctic Monkeys, I reckon.
Interesting.
Wait, that's the same show?
No, two shows.
That'd be a good show.
God.
By the way,
what's going on in this country?
Let's know in the chat what you think of this absolute bag of shit boxing fight that's going to be hosted by Tottenham Hotspur Stadium. Tyson Fury versus the bum Derek Chisora. I reckon you could get in there and knock Chisora out, Stevie. You're well up for it. Oh yeah, you better be.
I've got an open bar. I might be in the ring.
It's dreadful. Let us know what you think of in the chat. We're going to get back on track. See what happens when there's no run sheet. I just go off on tangent.
Yeah, you're just, we're 52 minutes in and we haven't even covered Newcastle yet.
We haven't even talked about garnishes yet.
Uncontrollable. There's the recent form. Lots of draws.
Yeah,
so Newcastle
they don't give up many goals.
Yeah.
How are they sixth?
Well, because they've picked up form.
And they don't lose.
Yeah.
No, he's right about that. There was a period even when they actually were drawing games, which they shouldn't have drawn. And it was these ones where Crystal Palace, they shouldn't have drawn. Obviously, Bournemouth, they shouldn't have drawn. And Wolves, they shouldn't have drawn. So you look at that. They actually... I had them originally with my sort of Premier League table. I had them finishing 8th this season. So it'll be interesting to see whether they actually achieve that. But I actually do have Newcastle being a much better team than even the average person expected. I actually think they could even challenge for a European spot, like the Conference League spot, should I say, really, if anything. But,
John, it's perfect.
Paul.
I think it's going okay, if I'm being really honest. We're getting away with it. Yeah, so Newcastle, what do we need to change then, Stevie? Come on, you're the man who'll be there. Not in the Tunnel Club, in your poor seats or whatever. But what are you saying? What do you think is going to happen? Are we going to switch it up? Are we going to move? Obviously, Royale will probably come in, much to the fury and frustration, no pun intended, of the Tottenham Hotspur faithful.
Yeah, agreed. And in terms of where I'm sitting, I don't even know where I'm sitting yet. So I think I'm in the West somewhere. So it's TBC. So hopefully I'll be there.
It's not one of those ruses again, is it?
No, legit, no, legit, no.
Like, because
I don't know where I'll be.
Steve does the old. Oh, I don't know where I'm sitting. I'm not in the Tunnel Club this week. Can't do Conte. Can this? Oh, I'm really sorry about that. Where were you sitting, Steve? Can you say?
No, I can't say yet.
He was in an even more exclusive area of the stadium than he normally is. That's all I'll say.
Moving very swiftly on. So the first thing we've got to change, regardless of who plays, regardless of a formation, we've got to learn to pass the ball or remember how to pass the ball, because it doesn't matter whether we play 3-5-2, 4-4-2, 3-4-3. It doesn't matter what formation we play, who we have on the pitch.
Complete a pass.
If we're constant, and from our back line as well, constantly we're giving a ball away, and it just invites pressure. And Newcastle are a good team. I know they've got a few injuries, but
they've got a lot of injuries.
Yeah,
and it's amazing, Stevie. You mentioned earlier how that Kane had a decent game because made some nice balls. But actually, I remember seeing a stat for him, even how many balls we losing in attack. He had the lowest pass completion of anyone on the field. I think he was like 59% or something like that in the Manchester game. Our front line's given away as well as our back line. And for me on Newcastle, Bruno, their center midfield, because they're out. Obviously, they're out. St. Maxima, they're out. Isak, and I guess I just learned he's out. Joelinton. I mean, they've lost two great attackers, and yet they're still getting results. We lose two great attackers, and we're still getting results. This is kind of a very interesting matchup because we're not playing their best 11. They're not playing our best 11. But for me, it's stopping Bruno in the center of the park because he makes everything click. That guy's a good footballer. So for me, it's whatever we're going to do is limiting his movement and his ability on the ball because he's good enough to set up Wilson and Almiron, who's actually shockingly scoring goals. I mean, he played for them for 2 years. It seems like he never scored a goal. Now he's putting the ball in the net. But
Steve Bruce will do that to you.
Yeah. That's a good point. That's a good point.
Like the Diego Simeone effect, I would say.
So this is going to be interesting. I agree with you. I mean, this is a game where we are better at almost every position than they are, and it's just a matter of completing passes. It's executing your game plan. It doesn't matter the formation. I agree with you, Stevie. That's a good observation. They just need to execute.
And I think given how bad we were, given we're back at home, we need, and I know it's Pockettle, and I know I'm not one to talk here where I sit, but we need a crowd to get behind the players, and we need an atmosphere, and we need to get that game going. So I think if we start well, I think we'll do fine. But we all know that the Spurs crowd is like, including us. We all do it. If we start misplacing a few balls, then immediately the crowd's going to get on the players' back. They're going to be groaning, and then it just demotivates the team. So I think we need a quick start from the players, which we haven't done since last season, and I think we need a quick start from our fan base, which we probably haven't done since the Arsenal game last year.
Just quickly, Stevie, do you feel like, I could be totally wrong since you're actually at the games, but I feel like we seem to play the first 10 to 12 minutes, usually a bit hotter than the other side, or at least we have a bit more energy. We're kind of running around about a bit more. Obviously, that sort of tricks the TV viewer a bit more, that we look better in the first 10 minutes. But do you think that's true, that in the first 10 to 12 minutes, we seem to come out with a bit more energy, but we don't really have anything to show for it ultimately in that first 10 to 12 minutes? Whereas maybe other teams that come out hot and heavy in the first 10 to 12 minutes, sometimes they grab a goal and then they find themselves in a good position. It just seems like we don't do that, but I don't know. I want your thoughts on it.
Yeah, it's an interesting point.
Yeah.
So I guess
I don't know. It feels like we start games sort of well, but I only mean 10 minutes. I'm not saying
sometimes,
20 minutes or anything.
Sometimes.
Yeah, sometimes, and also kind of, I'd say sort of well in terms of keeping it together. So I don't think we ever, get the ball and just go at a team.
Sure. Yeah.
Even at home, which sometimes I kind of wish we'd do. But I think you're right. I think sometimes we start reasonably well, and then after 10, 15 minutes,
we give it to them. It feels like
the other team just seem to get their footing, and they
or
I
the
don't know
tempo
if teams try and figure us out or what. But quite often you get teams playing dropping back, particularly if us at home. We have a lot of possession in the first 10, 12, 15 minutes, whatever, and then you're right, it just kind of flicks. And the amount of times we've gone in a half time and everybody is down, everybody's pissed off, and everybody's just trying to say the same thing of we're normally better in the second half.
Yeah.
But it's weird. I don't know why.
What would you guys? I mean, not what you think Conte will do, but what do you think actually? If you're making the team sheet up, what is the formation? Who are you putting on the pitch against this team? Against Newcastle. Caller, what are you going to do if you actually get the decision?
I mean, if it was me, which obviously it isn't, I would probably still play 5-3-2. and I'd look to dominate the midfield. I'd bring Ollie Skip in. I'd put Sessegnon in because I thought Perisic was really ineffective. I'd stick with Doherty, or I'd take a punt on Spence. I'd be more than happy to give Spence the first 45, and if he doesn't deliver, bring Doherty on for the second. I don't really want to see Royal play, to be honest, because I know what I'm going to get from him. You need to mix up that midfield. We need some thrust in it. Give Højbjerg or Bentancur. I mean, I think there's a strong chance he could drop Bentancur. He had a massive row with him, and he was really, really poor at Man United. Now, he's been a good player for us, don't get me wrong, but good players sometimes need rotation.
They need a break.
You've got Skip. Skip could do the job just as adequately, in my opinion. So I'd be more than tempted to stick 5-3-2. I think the other thing is what King Hoddle's pointing out here. Perisic as a left-sided forward. I think that works because I think for me, Perisic, obviously, his strength is all in the the final third. He was pretty poor, really, up against was it Anthony at Old Trafford, and I just think you've got to try and the art of defence is attack, isn't it? And I just think I don't expect us to dominate teams, but you've got to have that lethality on the break, and that just wasn't there at Old Trafford at all. The passes had no snap in it. We didn't look like we were driving. There was no one picking passes. It was, I don't expect us to dominate games. I expect us to have a game plan and stick to it. And it didn't look like we had a game plan at Old Trafford. It really didn't. When it wasn't working in midfield, we didn't change it up. So, if to ask what I would do, I'd play Sessegnon left fullback. I'd probably start with Spence on the right, but I know we won't do that. Centre backs, I'd have Longley instead of Davis, who I thought had a really poor game at Manchester, as did a lot of them. Or bring him in for Dyer, just so you've got someone who can carry the ball and pick a pass. Because the other thing is with our system with three centre backs, when they come forward, they've got to be able to play midfield. Now Romero can do it, Dyer can't do it really, or he'd just be a fourth DM, and Davis certainly can't do it really. So I think Longley gives you a lot. In distribution, in the distribution sense, he can pick a pass. So I suppose that's quite a few changes when you look at it. And then I think you're pretty hamstrung with Son and Kane up front. But if that doesn't work, if that 3-5-2 isn't working, then mix it up and go to your 3-4-3 and put Hill out on the left.
That's why we found ourselves in the position in the Man United game was like 3-5-2. 3-5-2 seemed like the right idea. We all agreed as a fan base. Even Conte agreed that was the right way to set up initially against Man United. Sort of didn't really work, mostly because of reasons we explained before. But, I mean, he then had an opportunity at halftime. He still was 0-0. Like, it still was anybody's game, technically. And he obviously got kind of betrayed yet again, like in the North London derby, conceding only, like, a minute or two in. Like, that's always really, I think, unfortunate for a coach, because after giving that whole halftime speech and everything, like, to concede a minute or two in is pretty much the exact opposite of what they ever wanted.
Massive lapse in concentration.
It then pushed more for the 3-4-3 change. It pushed more for, like, once we conceded, even though I actually felt for Conte when we conceded that early. I was kind of like, that's tough to be in the coach's position in that situation, to concede that early, because you do lose a lot of momentum at that stage, and you lose a lot of kind of mental kind of psyche there. But we all, like we brought up before, like, it was calling out for the 3-4-3, and it was calling out for a change at that stage once we did go a goal down, and he didn't do it. And it needs to happen this time around. It needs to happen. Yeah. But I think he's condemned to play the 3-4-2, to answer the other Jack's question. I think he's kind of like forced to find some rendition of the 3-5-2, whatever it may be, whatever it be, Skip, Spence, etc. He's basically forced to play the 3-5-2, I think, unless he believes in the prophecy of Hill Messi, of course.
I must admit, Spence, for the 180 seconds he was on the pitch, however long, he looked a lot more progressive than Royale has looked.
He did the one thing Doherty didn't all game, which was take on his man and try to skin past him. He did the one thing Doherty never tried.
So I knew the game's over when he came on. We all did. So I was like, you know what? I'm just going to look at this guy. I'm going to do. Do Sky still do it when they do player cam? Do Sky still do that or not?
No, they haven't done that for years.
So like I did diver cam, right? I just locked my eyes on Spence, and he was constantly moving about, asking for the ball, like constantly, and he was constantly looking to bomb forward. And a couple of times, and he had a bit of a go at Højbjerg, actually. No, it wasn't Højbjerg. Oh, crap, who was it? I can't remember who it was in the middle.
Bentancur is on his side. Yeah, Bentancur is on the right side.
Yeah. It's like it bombed forward, and it was on. It was on. Ball didn't come. And he was fuming. He was absolutely fuming. And I think
that's what we need.
We've got issues with right wing back. Give him a go. Just give him a go. Like, at very worst, he's going to...
you're not going to see it, though. That's the thing. You're going to get Emerson.
Yeah, yeah. We all know what the team sheet's going to say.
Well, I mean, for me, I don't have the knowledge, I guess, to know what is the best system, but I know they're going to press. They're going to press this unit. They're going to play their 4-3-3. They're going to play a high line, and that back line's not very fast. So for me, I almost feel like, go back to hey, let's concede the midfield, go 3-4-3, and whether it's Son and Lucas or Hill Messi or whatever, let's put some speed on the wings to get around Trips and Burn, which
problems last time.
Yeah, they're not really very fast, and I'd love to see Spence. It would be such a dream to have a guy who's got speed and takes them around. Spence on Dan Burn is a matchup that I would love to see. But I mean, that's the way I think. I wouldn't be surprised if we see that. Because
if anything, you don't even need the 3-4-3 if you do go with Spence, because you're probably assured that Spence can make those runs in behind that, maybe another fullback in our team or the other fullbacks, let's just be honest, wouldn't make. So I actually think you could, it's two choices. I think, I don't know if you agree with me, but it's either you go with Lucas in the 3-4-3 or you should go with Spence and the 3-5-2 as a right wing back. I think it's one or the two.
Yeah, it's almost the same thing. You're right. It's almost tactically almost the same type of operation. And I mean, and if our three backs can't deal with Emerald, Wilson, and Murphy, then oh well. I mean, you need to have center backs who can deal with that front line, Almiron, Wilson, and Murphy. I mean, those are the Premier League players, but it's not the top of the league. So I would hope that we could handle that, but who knows? I mean, it'll be interesting to see what we get. I'm just looking for the response. I'm just looking for the play. I'm just looking for whoever steps on the pitch is huge energy. To your point, Jack, let's start the game out really, really hot. And Stevie, if we can get the crowd to step up, because we are a bit of I've been there enough to know that there's a bit of a wait and see approach of the fans and wait to see how the team performs. And if the team can get up in the first 10 minutes, maybe we get a crowd behind us and make something happen.
It does look like it's unlikely that Kulusevski is going to be back.
He's out
before the World Cup. He hopes that he'll be back before the World Cup. Implied to me, needs him to be, but that's a big hope. Let's talk about predictions then. So Jack, what are you saying? What's the score going to be? I mean, bear in mind, I think we're pretty unbeaten at home for a very long time. Pretty unbeaten. Yeah,
10 straight, I guess, at home. I'll stick with the low scoring thing with the chance of being wrong, or with a 3-3 or something like that. But I'll take Spurs 1-0.
Okay, Stevie.
2-1
to Spurs.
Yeah, 2-1.
That's what's known as a pregnant pause. Flat cap.
Just he couldn't actually say the team because the Pope family was listening. I think is what it was.
Well connected.
His mum and dad.
They're cheeseheads. The Pope family.
Careful.
What did you say?
His parents are only a couple of miles away from me now, so I have to be a bit careful.
Oh, there you go. Yeah. See, there you go. Flat cap, what are you saying?
I've wanted to leave this game as confused as possible about the future of Spurs and how good we actually are. So I've decided to go for a 3-0 convincing win, because after a horrible performance like Man United, let's say we do win 3-0 like Gov has put there, I would leave so confused as to how good this team actually is. I would leave more. In fact, if we actually drop points, I would be more certain about this team, and I'd be more kind of like things have been clarified with this team if we end up dropping points. If we get a very convincing win this weekend, I will be just as confused as I probably started the season with this team. So I think 3-0 is what I'm going to go for. Kane penalty, and then I'm going to go for a Sonny brace.
Really? I think we'll concede and then blow them away. I actually think we will finish. We'll win 3-1. I think that's a nice scoreline. We're very good at home. Very good at home. Jack's looking after the North middle tier for me while I'm away from the stadium. I have ultimate confidence that you're going to cheer us on to a great victory, Jack. I think we're going to be tested because I think the Newcastle side are good. But I absolutely think that we have got what it takes. And I think early goals absolutely crucial for us. If you look at obviously early goals are always crucial in football, but I think we'll be out I think we'll come out of the blocks fast with a point to prove after that defeat at Manchester United, and get our season back on track, please. Let's do that. What else is going on? I don't know why that's in the run sheet, but that's quite funny.
That looks like a game that should not be put on TV. I don't know why anyone would want to watch.
Only in America, Jack. Only in America.
Why would anyone want to watch?
It's even loaded my favourite curry house in there, which
I was wondering.
Let's talk about the fixtures. What have we got coming up? So let's predict these then. Let's get predicting. What have we got? Do you want to go first, Stevie?
I mean, Forest Liverpool, you've only got one winner there, and it's not Forest. Probably going to be 3-1, isn't it? Everton Palace is going to be an interesting one, isn't it?
Yeah, I agree.
I could see a draw there, like a fairly scrappy 1-1. City Brighton, you've got to go City there. 3-0? Chelsea United.
Also a good one.
I don't even know where you'd go with that.
That's a tough one.
I think it'd be 2-1 to Chelsea, but that could go either way. West Ham Bournemouth. I'm going to gloss over that because we know who's going to win that one.
Bournemouth.
Yeah, let's hope so.
They're unbeatable right now, Stevie. Don't take them, to treat them seriously. Aren't Bournemouth like one of the most informed teams in the Premier League right now? Like, aren't they? Like,
it seems like everyone's having a spell in form. So yeah,
aren't they undefeated or something? Like since the sacking, or
I think
so. Poor Scotty Parker, who had to play Arsenal, Liverpool, City, Chelsea,
opened his mouth,
then gets canned. Soon. Yeah,
anyway. Opened his mouth too soon. That's what it was. He opened his mouth way too soon. Way too soon. And he did this before at Fulham. And I also heard just quickly on Scotty Parker that Fulham fans and Bournemouth fans have both now shook hands and saying that ever since Scotty Parker has left the club, we have looked better. So I think there is maybe a bit of worry sign for Scotty Parker that once he left Fulham, they looked better. Now that
but man, he looks good on the touchline, though. I gotta give it to him.
In his cardigan.
I enjoy the sweater.
Yeah. Okay.
The cardigan.
Where are we up to, Steve? You done all yours?
I mean, I think I can see Brentford winning that game. Leeds, Fulham, you got to go for Leeds. So that probably 1 or 2-0, maybe 1-0. I think.
Yeah.
Southampton, Arsenal. It's not going to be an easy one for Arsenal. I can see
it probably will be.
Yeah.
Southampton have got one good performance in a season, I think, and they gave us it last season. So hopefully, they'll get.
This is their time.
Yeah, exactly.
I think there'll be a score draw. Wolves, Leicester. Well, they're both trash, but does anybody care about Wolves, Leicester?
My dad?
No, but I'll go with Saw. Saw versus what is it? What's the guy's name? Ward. I'll take Saw in that game.
Yeah, that's a
Diego
good point.
Costa versus Danny Ward.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
Not
Jack,
a lot
do
of.
you want to run through these games quickly and predict?
Yeah, so I mean, I think Liverpool's a 3-0 win. I think Everton, Crystal Palace, that's a draw. It could be 0-0, 1-1. Man City, Brighton, Brighton, could give them trouble. I would say that might only be 2-0. Chelsea, Man United, I think that's going to be a very, very tough battle in the midfield. That's probably a 1-0 Chelsea win. Aston Villa, you never know what happens when someone actually, I didn't even know. I went into my non-football bubble, and it wasn't until I was on the tube coming out of Paddington that I even know that Stevie stepped down because I saw someone reading the paper across.
I think the whole Premier League sighed and relieved when seeing Stevie step down. I mean, I couldn't watch Aston Villa until he left.
Yeah, I mean, you never know what happens when a manager leaves. So Brentford's a good squad, but I see that as a draw. Leeds, I'm an American. I'm rooting for that team a little bit. I have to admit, but it's looking. I mean, Bamford's a God.
He is worthless.
He's so bad. God, he is so bad.
He was worthless against the Scots.
He is so bad.
He was worthless. I said, even after he got subbed on, I said, sub him off because he was worthless.
He's so bad.
Oh,
I mean, in all honesty, Jesse Marsh should have at least 6 more points. Well, 4 more points if it weren't for Bamford. He hasn't even played that many minutes. I hope Leeds win. I'll give them 2-1, but probably, Fulham will probably win it. Southampton, Arsenal. Can we loan Forster back for that game? Would that be okay?
Smart idea.
I'll let you. Yeah.
I mean, of course, with my heart, I hope that's a draw, but it's probably an Arsenal win. Wolves-Leicester is not even worth televising. That's definitely a 0-0 game. And then, of course, I already called Spurs 1-0 in Newcastle.
Chat.
Darwin Nunez shins one in when he meant to hit it with his foot. Next goal, I think he hits it with his nose. They win 2-0. And then Darwin Nunez gets praised endlessly. Everton versus Crystal Palace. I'd love to see Fat Frank lose. And so I am going to go for a 2-0 win for Crystal Palace as Zaha sauces all over them. De Zerbi, I am a fan of big former Shakhtar coaches. I love Shakhtar, but I see him losing 5-0 in this one. I think he might get actually smacked in this one because he's very good going forward, De Zerbi, but I am questioning maybe the back line, so I think he could get humbled. Chelsea, Man United. If Eric Ten Hag wears a fitting suit, like Simon Jordan and I agree that he needs to find, I would say he could win this one 2-1 away from home. West Ham, Bournemouth. I am going to say Bournemouth win just because I don't like West Ham and because I think Bournemouth are one of the more better teams of the Premier League. So they either draw or win this one. Brentford, Aston Villa. I am going to go for Brentford just because I do like Thomas Frank and because I don't like Aston Villa with how they were playing with Stevie G. And they injured your favorite Matt Doherty caller, so we definitely shouldn't like them. Leeds United, Fulham. I have to defend our fellow Yank. So I am good. And I do love Mitrovic, so I'm going to have to go 3-1 Leeds United with the Mitrovic goal, just so my favorite donkey of the Premier League gets his goal. Southampton, Arsenal. I do enjoy Ralph Hasenhüttl. I find him to be a very funny conundrum of the Premier League and a very funny case study. But I'm going to say they
another
lose.
fan of the cardigan.
He's a fan of like the tracks. He is the definition of a tracksuit manager one day, and then the next day he wears a full 3-piece suit. He's a very confusing one. Is he going to go full 3-piece suit for this one, do you think, caller?
Full 3-piece wanker.
For Arsenal.
But he wears the tracksuit in the next game, so you never know his next move.
He'll match Arteta's tracksuit.
Yeah.
I think he's going to go 3-piece suit in this. No, he does the suits in the away game. So I think he goes tracksuit in this one.
All day long.
Tracksuit
And baseball cap like he loves. I think they win 2-1. Wolves Leicester shouldn't be on TV, like we said. I think
it's not on TV.
Oh,
It is here. Buck, sorry, it is back home.
And Leicester, I think Leicester on a bit of a groove right now by the looks of things. 1-0, I think, to Leicester, and then 3-0 to Spurs. Sorry.
Well, I'm going to say Forest are going to come from nowhere to pinch a draw with Liverpool. Liverpool aren't very good. Just to be
That's a big call, caller.
That's a hot take.
I wish I believed it, but you know. There you go. Just trying to be contrary, really. Otherwise, I'm going to say the same stuff as you. Everton are going to beat Palace, I think, just 1-0, something like that. City will butcher Brighton 4-0. Chelsea will beat Man United 1-0, 2-1. 2-1. West Ham draw with Bournemouth. West Ham aren't very good right now. Villa, a little bit of a bounce predicted. I'm going to say a 2-1 win there against Brentford. Brentford don't travel well either. Leeds, God, where's this going to go? 2-1.
Akar Yank.
2-1. Let's say 2-1.
Come on.
Southampton. Oh, I want to believe.
But don't.
I can't see anything other than a good win 2-0.
Yeah.
Wolves. I'd love it if they beat Leicester. Managerless, rudderless Wolves with a 37-year-old up top beat Leicester.
What's your outlads' thoughts on Nuno? Or what's your dad's thoughts on Nuno?
Doesn't want him back.
No, they don't.
But doesn't know who else they're going to get. So lots of frustration.
He'll be a caretaker.
I think the thing is, if you're a Wolves fan, you're picking from a very small pool of managers right now, and they're nearly all Portuguese because that's what they do, and that's the problem. That's the frustration. Like, you know, Mendes basically controls all their transfer policy. Ridiculous situation, completely ridiculous situation. But my dad thinks the owners have completely not got a clue. They make ENIC look like model owners, which they're obviously not. But yeah, so there's some issues at Wolves, big issues. But I'd love it if they beat Leicester. I can see Leicester getting a result. I think Wolves are in real danger of the drop this year. Maddison is single-handedly pulling Leicester away from the relegation zone, I feel. And obviously Spurs, I've said 3-1. So that's what I'm saying. There you go. There we go. That's the TV schedule. What's this? Why has he put this in here?
I don't know.
Nor do I. Maybe it's just the TV schedule. So there we go. That's where we're at. Yeah. We're done, I think. Any other comments?
Done.
I think David Harris, or the other David Harris, is very disappointed and didn't get my Hill Messi chance. And, I like to use it naturally. And so next time. So
I
think that was the whole reason he stuck through the whole show, is just for me to listen for my Hill Messi chance, just for him to roast it. And he didn't get it.
The original Dave Harris, he's been away and back now. I think he's just been shouting at his kids.
Yeah. But he called Newcastle 2-0, so we don't need to highlight his comments.
I just want to apologize, Jim, because I know he probably stuck through the whole show for me to talk about Hill Messi. So
the sad thing is, I'm going to sound controversial here.
Really? Unusual.
There are people that walk amongst us, Spurs fans, that enjoy it when we lose or don't turn up.
We'll just go on Twitter.
Exactly right, Steve. Exactly.
It's not a hot take.
It's a cool take, man. There's this American term of hot take. I tell you, I think it's hysterical. I genuinely do. Hot, especially when I see hot take specialist on someone's Twitter handle. It just makes you sound like a dick.
It does.
I'm an expert at hot takes. Yeah. Oh,
You snapped. I was gonna say. You snapped. I was gonna say you snapped him out of existence. You snapped him out of existence.
And there you go. He's back.
Yeah, I just don't know what happened there.
Well, I do.
Snapped you out.
I click my fingers. Watch.
It's genius.
It's
Genius.
I acknowledge your power.
It's like that. Yeah.
Oh, don't do that. Don't do that.
It's like that Bono. Every time I click my fingers, a child dies in Africa. Stop fucking clicking your fingers, then, Bono. Yeah. The Leave It Out Brigade. Yes, I do mean the Leave It Out Brigade. And look, I've got no great love for Mr. Levy, particularly. I'm not like Steve. I'm not wealthy and connected. So I don't really care. I care about the football team on the pitch. But you know, I do think there are people that want us to almost fail a little bit to further their agenda. It makes me very sad when I read Twitter.
Yeah,
And I think, I think to be clear, I think like in their hearts they are Spurs fans. I know we welcome all views, absolutely, but I think sometimes people get so entrenched in their views, and I've done it in the past. We all have that kind of you look for data to support your view, and if you have a certain view or if you get subscribers from being negative, it's like a Trump effect, isn't it? You know, you go out in the US and you tell people what they want to hear, and you rile up anger and you rile up emotion, it gets you followers. And I think there are people who do that, and they may not necessarily quite want us to lose, but they're not particularly gutted when we do lose, because then that's their opportunity to go on Twitter. And like there's some accounts I've looked at, when we win, it's ghost town. Like they don't post anything. When we lose, they're all over it. And I think these are genuinely Spurs fans, because some of these people post like selfies and images from a game. So clearly they are fans and are investing in the club.
Yeah.
But I think
dramatic effect to improve a following, Steve.
I'd never do that. So
curate your timeline more. Caller. Yeah, I probably should go. You're absolutely right. I should just block the negativity from my life. But it does provide me with a little bit of a laugh at other people's expense. So I'm always game for that.
I mean, if I blocked the negativity from my life, I'd never speak to Davo. So
absolutely. and you do quite often, like 3 times a day. Absolutely. Awesome. Steve, thanks for joining us all the way from the mansion.
Apologies, it's been so long, but I should be on more often for a while. But thank you very much. It's always a pleasure. Same, we had to talk about that cursed game up north, but I think Sunday will be better.
I feel for you. And the worst is you could have popped in on the way past and had a little cup of coffee or something. But I mean, by the time you were going past in the evening, I was tucked up in bed, so there'd be no one to make you the coffee. Jack, Flat Cap Jack, again, thanks for coming on. Hope your hipster beer was nice.
Yeah, the hipster beer lasted the whole show. It's all that I needed. I think that's kind of the benefit. It's the benefit of a craft beer, garnishless collar, is that it can last that long. It can be more powerful than the Bud Light, which people will be paying about 13 to 15 pounds for in the World Cup. So you could say the price of a Bud Light or a Budweiser will be the price of my craft beer pretty soon at some stage. So that's my concluding thought.
I should have said this is important. So if you're not already signed up to Patreon, do join us at patreon.com/Choosing Podcast. I'm sure we'll be doing some World Cup Predict the Score as well. Merch after 6 months, fantasy football, exclusive content, prize and discount codes, chat group. It's really worth the price of £3. Maybe we should be increasing that with inflation, Steve.
What's your fantasy name, Collar? Do you play fantasy football? What's your fantasy team?
Yeah, I do, and it's Sound of the Larice. Sadly, there's 2 Sound of the Larices in our Patreon fantasy football. I think I'm the higher ranked one. I'm not sure.
Pretty sure the Sandro name was also taken. I would imagine no Sandro puns are allowed, considering Brendan would take those.
Yeah,
Brandon.
Brendan's absolutely got something with Sandro, but he's shit at fantasy football. He basically lives on a
yeah, he
beach
is.
drinking,
Does Brendan know Sandro?
and eating. He never mentions it, does he, Stevie? He never mentions it. We're so well connected. We're so well
Acquaintances. Acquaintances at the most. Mine's Højbjerg Shoulders FC. So I'm hoping for Højbjerg to lift the team this weekend.
Wow.
Do you know my team name, Jack?
I need to know it.
I don't have one, so I forgot to enter.
That's disappointing. Now I'm just going to be left in suspense for a whole weekend. No, I'm just going to be left in suspense. Maybe that's your team name, Suspense. There you go. There's an idea.
That'd be a good World Cup one right now. So let's do that. Jack,
the World Cup.
Pleasure as ever.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
When do you go back to the States?
I fly home Tuesday.
Well, I hope this country treats you well, better
great.
than it does its prime ministers, and hopefully you have a great trip, 3 points at the weekend, and a safe trip back. And thanks to everybody at home for watching. Please do smash that like button, hit subscribe. We're so close to 6,000. It's getting there any day now. It's getting there. Please do follow us on all the socials. Join Patreon. It's a great thing to be a part of. And in the meantime, come on, you Spurs.
Come on, you Spurs.
Come on, you Spurs.
Come on, you Spurs.